Hi. So I'm excited to be here today and to talk about integrating open educational resources, or OERs, through assignments, assessments, and thinking also about digital skills. So my name is Kelly Schrum. I'm a professor of higher education at George Mason University, which is in the United States in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm a historian by training and have spent a lot of years working in digital humanities and creating OERs, or open educational resources. My research now focuses primarily on the scholarship of teaching and learning, including teaching and learning with technology, scholarly digital storytelling, and I have a new project on augmented reality. Today, my presentation centers around a history of higher education course that was designed for graduate students who are studying higher education and student affairs. These students are often practitioners, and many work throughout institutions of higher education while earning their degree. So this was not a course specifically about OERs, but I see them as essential for all learners, along with the digital skills that are often necessary for creating OERs. So students in this course are the higher education leaders of tomorrow. And as I said, they work throughout institutions of higher education. So this could be student affairs, university life, academic advising, teaching and learning centers, financial aid, institutional planning, really anywhere in an institution of higher education. So I feel really strongly that it's beneficial for everyone to understand OERs. So I use my classes as an opportunity to introduce that, the benefits and the challenges, including how to use them as consumers and how to create them as knowledge producers. So introducing someone to OERs and explaining their value, I think, is a really good first step. But I find that having students create online resources and share their work builds an even deeper understanding of and commitment to OERs. So this class is connected to a larger project that really has 4 layers of OERs and OER engagement. So one is I used OERs and materials available through the library as the course content. There were no material costs to students, and I'm committed to doing that whenever possible. 2 students created OERs that we called asynchronous learning activities, and I'll talk a little bit more about what those look like. 3, the project team created an OER for teaching students to create these online learning activities and for other faculty to use if they wanted to do something similar in their class. And 4, the project team created an OER about the history of higher education. So I'll talk briefly about each of these. So as I mentioned, the course used OERs alongside materials that were freely available in the university library. And again, I think this is really an important first step to model the use of OERs and to show how many resources are available that way. This included a core book on the history of higher education in the US that was available through our library, as well as a lot of primary sources and open access materials that were available freely online. The second layer of the OER centers on the student projects. So in a graduate level history of higher education course, students developed asynchronous learning activities for their peers to facilitate exploration of contemporary issues in higher education today from a historical perspective. So by the end of the course, students had created a learning activity, which is an OER in and of itself, and they also completed learning activities created by their peers. So the assignment centers on analyzing primary sources, but it also required integrating digital tools to help other students reflect on these sources. For this class, we required students to use Google Sites since it's freely available and it's relatively easy to use. And that allowed us to create some resources for all the students to help support this work. In other classes, I use a range of digital tools, but several people were teaching a similar course. And so for that reason, primarily we used Google Sites and stuck with that. So just to some examples, one student learning activity explored international students in the United States by analyzing 2 immigration acts from the early 1900s. The student utilized several digital tools to help guide peers through engaging with these sources. Another learning activity focused on the history of grades, drawing students into analyzing university transcripts as primary sources and introducing new concepts such as ungrading and contract grading. Yet another student explored the history of women's studies in the United States and engaged learners in exploring the foundational events that were happening outside of the university and society at large that helped shape the development of this academic discipline. So completing other students' learning activities reinforced learning around that first layer of OERs and introduced new ideas and sources, materials created by their peers. Occasionally there were issues with access to various tools. With Google, everything has to be shared and often republished if you make any changes. So sometimes there's some little glitches in there, but I really see that as part of the learning process as well. So the learning activities were a really great way to learn about the interests of fellow students, and this was supported by our research. So Turquoise said, I became so interested in and impressed by the work of my peers that I ended up completing multiple activities. And Garnett shared, one thing that really struck me after starting to look at others' activities was that the way the technology was used really impacted how I, as the learner, understood the story. So should I stop there?